Get that out of the way. And let's start the PowerPoint. Start the PowerPoint. And I think I got a plan maybe for our label. We'll come up with it. So today we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about the eye and how it functions as an optical instrument. So oh, okay, you were just doodling and now you're cleaning up. Nice, good job. So today we're going to talk about the eye and how it functions as an optical instrument, the parts and what the function of those parts are. And then we're going to compare and contrast the eye with a camera. And the reason we're going to compare and contrast it is because they really have similar features. They've got similar parts in it that run in a similar fashion. Now, does this old school type camera have any use still today? Well, it does, because you can buy what are called SLRs. These are single lens reflex cameras. And instead of having old school film in it, which is what this one used to have, you can have it as a digital version, which then has a sensor in place of the film, which then saves it on a disc. So these cameras, these single lens reflex cameras, still exist today, and they have similar features. Now, the cameras on your phones would have slightly differing features because they're more of a digital component that then results in the similar features of these. But still, it's good to know the basic function of some of these devices, because you can then maybe, be able to use your device a little better. So we're going to start talking about the eye. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label this. Now, here's my plan. Do we have the same number of boxes on our labels here? We got the same number of boxes? How about on that document? Does it look the same? Yes. So what I'd like you to do is, for you guys who are labeling, maybe we will go, I like to start at the top and go around this way. I guess it's counterclockwise. Why don't you people who are typing, underneath the picture, type counterclockwise. So type the word counterclockwise, all right? And I'm starting at the top. So type in counterclockwise top, all right? And then we're going to go from there around the corner. Yes? You could do that. I could fill it out on here, and then you could take a picture with your phone. Sure you could. You could actually insert it into the documents. Correct. That's a great move. That's a good move, too. We could do that, too. That's probably better than counterclockwise, blah, blah, blah. We'll do that in a moment. Okay. So let's start labeling these particular pieces. And this particular thing right here, this little line that's right in here, and I'm going to talk about that a little more, this is what we call the iris, all right? The iris. Does anybody know what the iris is in the eye? What part of the eye is the iris? What do you think? Colored. Yeah, correct. It's the colored part of the eye, all right? And I'm going to talk about the jobs of those things in a moment. Does anybody know what the job of the iris is? Does anybody know what the function of the iris is? Yep. No, but that's an interesting kind of idea. It's colored, so does that allow us to see colors? No, that's not correct, because I guess blue-eyed people would see just blue? No. So that is not the function of the iris. All right, no problem. Let's keep going. So the next part that we have here, all right, is called the cornea. The cornea, all right, the cornea. The cornea is the outer surface of the eye. It's that shiny outer surface that you can see, if there's some light reflecting off of somebody's eyes, that shiny outer surface is the cornea. If you ever get poked in the eye, someone has basically touched your cornea. Boink, that type of thing. People who put in contact lenses are very good at touching their eyes, because they have to always make contact with that cornea as they put in that contact lens. Does anybody wear contact lenses in here? Anybody wear contact lenses? So you probably have the ability to just touch the outside of your eye. Your friends are grossed out by that type of thing. How do you do that? All that type of stuff. It's the cornea that you're touching there. All right? Excellent. Working my way around, this label here is actually not pointing. Let me just take a look down. I haven't done this in a long time. I just want to look down at my note before I go. So there's iris, cornea, pupil, lens, ciliary muscles, optic nerve. Okay, good, good. I just want to go back at what's labeled here. Ciliary muscles, retina, pupil, beautiful. Perfect, good, good. Okay, let me go back to here. So this particular label here is not pointing at a thing. It's actually pointing at an opening or a hole. So really this label here isn't this isn't labeling an object. It's labeling a void, an empty space. And this empty space is called the pupil. All right? What is the pupil? When you look at somebody's eye, you can see the pupil. What is the pupil? It's the black little disc. Now, the black little disc is not anything. It's just an opening. That's actually the hole into your eye. All right? Yep. It changes sizes. When the iris changes in size, then the pupil gets larger because the void opens. So the pupil itself is not actually growing. It's the iris opening up to open that hole, and the dark spot gets bigger. All right? So the pupil itself is nothing. We used to dissect cow eyes years ago. We don't seem to do that anymore. But when you dissect the eye, you can't actually pull out a little black disc because it isn't there. It's a hole. So when you look deep into that special someone's eyes and you're looking at that black disc, you're looking really into their eyeball. Why do you think it looks black? There's no light. What's happening to any of the light that hits the pupil? It's not gone. It's not like it just is like goes into a black hole. Yep. It's absorbed into the eyeball itself, and then it gets used back there so that we can see it. So we'll talk about what that is in a moment. Okay. Right here, and actually, this particular line should actually go a little further. It should actually go a little further to these little pieces right here. But don't worry about it. When I ask you to label something on a test, it's going to look just like that. So you just have to worry about kind of where it's pointing. But it's actually pointing at these little lines right in here, and these are called ciliary muscles. Muscles. You got to say it that way or you'll forget the C. Ciliary muscles. All right, muscles. They're the muscles in your eye. And we'll talk about what they do. All right? Right here, we've got a central disc that's kind of in behind the cornea past this empty space. By the way, this empty space isn't just empty. It is filled with fluid. All right? So there is fluid in there, a transparent liquid. It's mostly water. All right? But there are some proteins in it and things like that. That's why when you poke somebody in the eye or you push on their eye, it pushes back a little bit. There's a little bit of pressure there. That's what maintains the structure of the eye. If you were to like hold your best buddy down and take a scalpel or maybe a needle and poke it into that cornea, which would be very nice, liquid would come out and then the eye would deflate. It would indent in on it. Don't do that. Don't do that to your friends because that just is not a good thing. It would end poorly for their eyesight. But liquid would come out, all right, and their eye would deflate because the liquid would come out of there. So there is liquid in here that applies pressure. Question? I would think it would, but I'm not sure. I would think eventually the hole in the cornea would heal because your body's functions would do that. And then in the end, because there's all kinds of fluids moving around in our bodies, I do believe more liquid would take its place. But I don't believe it would be a pleasant experience. So if you're looking to just see if that works out and think that the next morning your eyeball is going to be fine, I highly doubt that. You probably don't want to do that. But I would think the body would repair itself. Okay, so you've got this liquid in here. In behind it is this kind of a transparent, kind of it's like a transparent sac. And it is the lens, all right? That is our lens. And it's like a sac. It's pliable. It can move. It can jiggle and wiggle. If you take the lens out of a nice, fresh cow's eye, something that hasn't been like preserved, it actually comes out and it looks like every once in a while they have stories on TV about breast implants that fail. So every once in a while they'll show a breast implant. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen that kind of a gelatinous thing? Have you ever seen something like that? It looks kind of like that. It's like it's squishy. It's a squishy sack of it's a squishy sack of, again, fluid. But it's the lens. But it's pliable. It can be stretched really thin, or it can be relaxed out and it can change shape. And when we look at things that are close, the lens has a different shape than if we look at things that are far, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, back here on the back of the eye, the back surface of the eye, and it literally is red, all right, so I'm going to draw it in. Back here on the back surface is the retina. Retina, all right, retina, that's R-E-T-I-N-A. All right, the retina is where the images land, all right? The retina is where the images from the lens are focused, and they land on that, and there are special cells in the retina that catch the light, turn that light into electrical signals. The way it does it is, remember light is a wiggling magnetic field, an electric field. There are charges in those cells that when the light comes in, they start to vibrate, all right? Just like a radio antenna, they start to vibrate, and that vibration sends an electrical impulse through a nerve to the brain. Our brain interprets it, and we see, all right? We see the light. So the retina is the thing that catches the light rays and turns it into an image. Jumping ahead, if I were to compare it to a camera, what part of a camera catches the light and saves it as an image? The film. So the retina is kind of like the film. It's the thing that catches the image, turns it into electrical signal, and turns it and then sends it to the brain. It's actually more like a digital camera, because a digital camera, thing like on your phone, has a special chip in it that's light sensitive. That chip converts those light signals into electrical signals, and through wires sends it to the memory on the camera and saves that image. Really, the retina is more like a digital camera than like an old school camera, because it converts that image into a signal, which our brains then interpret. All right, last part here that we're going to label is called the optic nerve. The optic nerve. And that's the wire. That's the wire that takes that image and takes that electrical signal. And our nerves run on electrical signals, and takes that electrical signal and sends it to the brain, and then the brain does something with that. So the idea was to insert an image of that. If you're trying to type it, if you're working on the Chromebooks, you can insert an image, but then you got to point the Chromebook at the at the screen. But you could take an image of that and put it in there, and that's great. So again, if you're typing on your phone, you can take a picture of that. Hopefully it's close enough. You guys must be good at that. Can you get a good image of that from back there? And it's good enough? You can see the words? You can make sense out of it? The words are going to be down below, so it's not like you gotta see it perfectly clearly. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to continue. We can always come back to this slide if we need to take the picture. So what I want to do now is, and I'm not going to fill them all in, but I do want to fill in some blanks here and talk about each of the parts in a little more detail. So this describes the whole process, and this is why I didn't want to write it all down. As light comes from an object, and that object could be a candle, it could be another person, it could be an actual object, it could be the light coming in from a light, it doesn't matter. As the light comes in from an object, it enters the eye first and gets to the cornea. It hits the outside surface, which is the cornea. The cornea does almost all of the blank of the light. Well, what's the purpose of the eye to do with that light? Actually, that's not really a good question, because you're going to say to see images. The purpose of the front part of the eye is to focus the light. It's to take the light and, like a lens, bend that light so that it enters the eye and can make a nice real image. Remember when we were looking at the lenses yesterday? I could take that candle and I could put it on a screen. The purpose of the lens is to focus the light. Now, it turns out that the cornea is actually part of the light focusing process. It is like a lens. So our eye is actually kind of made up of two lenses. The first one is the cornea. So the cornea does almost all of the, and I'll change that to yellow, focusing of the light. Now, the cornea's ability to focus is static. It can't change. You can't change the shape of the front of your eyeball. Well, you can with laser eye surgery, and that's what they do in laser eye surgery. They literally change the cornea. But under normal circumstances, you can't just use a muscle and flex some kind of muscle and change that. You can't do it. You could do it if you poked yourself in the eye. That would be an odd little experiment. I don't recommend it. But if you closed one eye and then you pushed on the side of your eye, you'd notice everything goes, right? It kind of looks funny because you're changing the lens. You're squishing it, okay? So the cornea, the front of the eye, it does most of the focusing. So the light comes in and it starts to focus. The light then goes through the pupil. And the pupil then is the hole in the eye. And it acts as a blank opening, empty round opening. That's fine, I like it. Empty, comma, round opening. All right? Now let's talk a little bit about the iris itself. I'm going to show you the camera. We will look at the camera again. I've just removed the lens. All right? So I've just removed the lens from the camera. And if I hold that lens out to you and I adjust this setting, can you see something opening and closing in there? Can you see it? These are not the shutters. We'll talk about what that is. But can you see it opening and closing? All right. This device has a device that's just like the iris. All right. And the opening in there is just like the pupil. Now, what this does is it adjusts the amount of light that enters our eyes. So you might have noticed that in the morning, your eyes are closed, and in actual fact, your eyes are adjusting for the dark. What happens in the dark to the pupil? Yep, it gets big. It gets really big because your brain is sensing low light. I can't see very well. So you know how when you've got bright lights on, you turn the light off and it's really dark, and then in a moment or two, you can start to see a little better again? That's because the pupils are opening up. They're letting lots of light in. And then when somebody turns on the light, it's so bright, and then it's okay again. And that's because the pupils adjust. Yep?
There's two pupils, would it be two different sizes?
Ooh.
One eye, what would happen?
Well, you would see a combined image, but that usually indicates an issue with the brain. So let's say you get bonked in the head playing a sport, and they do the concussion stuff. The first thing the doctor does, I'm sure, is take one of those lights and goes boop, 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 shines the light in your eye. And what they're doing is they're checking for pupil response, and they're checking to see if one pupil's bigger than the other, because that usually means that there's a brain issue because the eyes are getting some mixed up signals set to them. All right? Yep. That's exciting. Certain substances, that's fun. I was going to get there, but Zach, for some reason, wanted to go there first. So let's say that you're at a wedding, and even though you guys aren't old enough to have beverages of certain types, your parents might say, okay, you can have a little bit of this. Okay, so then what happens is you go to, people want to take pictures, and everybody says, yeah, let's take a picture. And everybody's going, yeah, woo, because everybody's having a good time, and everybody gets into the group, and they take a picture, woo, click, you take the picture, and you look at the picture, and what do you notice about everybody in the picture? Nope. No, what do you notice about the picture itself? Red eyes. How many people have seen pictures with people with psycho red eyes? Okay, here's what's happening. Let me explain to you what's happening. So, under normal circumstances, you get a bright light in your eyes, and your pupil goes, beep, gets really small, okay? So, if the lights are on, and it's nice and bright, your pupils are small, and you take a picture, no big deal. But if you're in the dark, pupils are really bright. And what some cameras will do is they'll have a red eye reduction. And people don't use these cameras much anymore. So I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but if you've ever seen an old school digital camera, newer than that one, it'll shine a light first. It'll go blink, blink, and then it'll blink again. Have you ever noticed sometimes it flashes 2 or 3 times? The purpose of the first flash is not the picture, but people think it is. So it goes blink, they think the picture's done, they start walking away, and the person goes, no, it didn't take a picture yet, what are you leaving for? The purpose of the first light is to shine a bright light into your eyes. What should your pupils do? They should get small, and then it takes a picture. Now, let's say you've had a beverage or two, which you shouldn't have had because you're not old enough, but let's say you've had, and if you've got a beverage or two, what happens if you've been taking alcohol or certain drugs, the pupils do not react the same way. So, it's dark, you're at the wedding, your pupils are huge, you've had a few beverages, which you shouldn't have because you're not old enough, and someone takes a picture, the first flash goes off, you're blinded, and your pupils stay big, the second one takes a picture. So what are they taking a picture of? Because your pupils are so huge, the light enters your eye, goes right to the back of the eye where the retina is. The retina has a lot of blood vessels because the retina is always working. These are cells that whenever your eyes are open, they're working hard. So they need lots of oxygen in order to function. So there's lots of red blood cells in there. The light hits the blood, which is red, reflects back out, but now it's red because it's reflected off of a red surface, heads back into the camera, and the camera has taken a picture of the back side of your eyeball. So when someone has red eye, you're seeing the back surface of their eyeball. That's what it is. And because they've had a few substances, that red eye reduction doesn't function and it stays big. That's why, and you guys, again, I don't know if we got drivers in this class, but when you get pulled over at your first ride check, better not be drinking, that's not a good thing, but when you get pulled over, what's the first thing the officer does when they walk up to the car? They shine a flashlight right into your eye. They're doing it on purpose. They're not trying to just be jerks. What are they looking for? Not the retina, your pupil. They're looking to see if the pupil responds. If it does right away, just fine, sir. Have had anything to drink? No, sir. All right, have a nice day. But if you sit there and go, it's so bright, they're going to say, how's it going? Good. Have you had any drinks? No. Come on out here for a minute. Let's have a chat. Come on out. So they're looking for the response of the pupil to respond to that bright light. And that's because the pupil's response diminishes with certain chemicals. Yes? Sorry, say that again. People have tattoos on their eyes? Like right on the eyeball itself? I've never seen that. What would that do? It would be off to the side, I would think. So they've changed the white color of the eye. Right. That will not affect their sight because it's not in the central area where the light that's coming in enters the pupil. If they were to somehow put a pigment right on the front surface of the eyeball, then it would affect their eyesight. They would have to cover that front surface where the iris and the pupil are to have their eyesight affected. So it won't affect their vision. Who knows whether it damages their eyes and it might affect their vision in the future because they get an infection or something else. But in a pure light sense, that light will still go right on through the front surface. Another question? Was there someone else? Yeah, what do you got? I can't remember. We had 2 hands up at one point.
I was thinking, like, have anything to drink and your pupils still don't respond.
Well, then they would give you a breathalyzer, and that would indicate your sobriety, right? So if you had another reason why, that would indicate the sobriety. Yeah. You can. I don't know if you've ever been to the optometrist, Justin. You ever been to an optometrist? Oh, okay. Just curious. Anyway, you know how sometimes they put these drops in your eyes? We're gonna just look at your eyes. You're gonna put some drops in your eyes, then they walk away and they come back and then they get that light out and they blind the heck out of you. Those are, again, a drug, a medicine that causes that iris to just, those muscles to just relax. It makes it absolutely huge. It doesn't even make it huge in a symmetrical way. If you've ever looked in the mirror, if a drop hits one side, the iris relaxes on one end and not on the other, and your pupil becomes like a snowman, because it's got a big, it looks goofy. It's like the freakiest thing you've ever seen. But that's what they do. They relax that muscle so they can look into your eyes with a light without having that iris shut up tight so that they can actually see what's going on. All right? So that's another thing. Again, if you go and leave and it's during the day and the sun is out, you're blinded until that drug wears off. Okay, so the pupil is the empty round opening, and it is where the light enters. All right. The iris is the blank part of the eye. The iris is the blank part of the eye. What do you think? I've already mentioned this, so I'm just, what's that? Colored. It's the colored part of the eye. Colored part of the eye that blanks and blanks to control the amount of light. Opens and closes. And that controls the amount of light that is entering. So the iris is the colored part of the eye that opens and closes to control the amount of light that enters. All right? Okay. Let's talk about what happens next. So it's hit the cornea. It's focused most of the time. It goes around the iris into the pupil, and it now encounters the lens. The light then enters the lens and is blanked slightly. What do you think? Nope. What do lenses do? Refracted? That's awesome. That would be a true statement, but let's just say focused. But refracted is correct. Every time it bends, it refracts. That's a good answer. You put that on a fill in the blank on a test, refracted, I give you that mark. It's focused slightly. So the cornea does most of the focusing, bends the light the most. The lens is like a fine tuner. It focuses it just enough so that you get a nice, perfect, sharp image on your retina. When you go to look at something far, we need a weaker lens, and so the ciliary muscles stretch the lens so it becomes thinner. The thinner the lens is, the weaker it is, and it focuses nicely on your eye. When you look at something close, you need a very strong lens. The ciliary muscles relax, the lens gets fat, and you can see nice and close. Old people like myself, this is where you're supposed to say, oh, Mr. Sanders, you're not that old. Anyway, old people like myself who need reading glasses, our lenses aren't as flexible as they used to be, so when we let them relax to see something close, they don't relax enough. They don't get fat enough to be strong enough to see that close thing. Yep. That's correct. So myself, that lens can't get fat enough. I need reading glasses. People who can't see far, their lens can't get tight enough and skinny enough, right? And therefore they need some help to make that lens weaker. We'll talk about that in a moment. So it's the lens that runs you into trouble. It either can't get strong enough or it can't get weak enough, depending on the type of sight defect that you have. The lens can change shape and therefore can change, the lens can change shape and therefore can blank how much the light blanks, can change how much the light bends or focuses or refracts to produce a clear image. So in the end, we need a clear image on the back of our retina. Remember yesterday when I had the piece of paper and I had to move the piece of paper around like that, right? And I had to do it until the image was perfectly clear? Well, we can't change where our retina is. We can't adjust where the screen is. So the screen stays stationary. So what do we change? We swap out to a weaker or stronger lens by our muscles stretching and relaxing in order to do that. So it's the lens that changes that allows us to focus. All right. Click on the next one. The ciliary muscles. Remember how I said the muscles pull the lens tight? The muscles are called the ciliary muscles. So ciliary muscles are attached to the ring of the lens, and they pull out and make the lens really thin, or they relax and make the lens let the lens get really fat. Actually, you know what? That's backwards. I remember looking that up. The muscle, I've got it completely backwards. The muscle is like a drawstring. You know how if you've got a hoodie, right? And you want to close that hoodie down, you pull on the string, you know what I mean? And it pulls everything in like that. That's actually the way it works. I forgot. I haven't taught this in a while. The ciliary muscles go around the lens like a drawstring, and when the muscles contract and they pull the lens in like a hoodie, and that makes it fat. Yeah, well, no, it's more like that drawstring, right? Like in a plastic bag that has a rope. You know, like a plastic bag that has a rope, and you pull it, and the bag closes. So when the muscles pull, it makes the lens get fat. So don't worry about it. You're not going to have to explain that, but I did explain it backwards. They pull to make it good. Anyway, the ciliary muscles are responsible for changing the blank of the blank. What are they changing? Yep. Size, shape, not necessarily size, but the shape. The shape. Its actual volume probably stays constant. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it gets smaller or bigger. It's just being redistributed by the squishing. The shape of the lens. The retina is on the blank of the eye. Very back side. Back side is what I was trying to get to. Is on the back side of the eye. The light energy is converted to blank. Was that an idea? Or did you put your hand up for an idea, Brett? Oh, you stretched. Okay. The light energy is converted into blank. Yep. No, not yet. Yep. Electric signals, nerve signals. I would have taken electric because nerve signals are electrical. Nerve signals by the photosensitive cells. Those cells, photosensitive just means they're sensitive to light. All right. So you can have an ailment where your retina detaches, very, very dangerous. So if the retina detaches for some reason and starts to drag down, you actually lose the ability to see. All right. I know some people that have had that happen. All of a sudden, they became blind in half the eye. If that happens to you, you want to go to the hospital right away. Because in the end, they'll send you to a place like in London. There's an eye specialist place at St. Joseph's Hospital in London. They take you in there, and they have to put a little cut in your eye because they need to grab some tweezers and put it back. And then they'll use laser light to weld the retina back to the back of your eyeball. And then you're good to go. But you can have the retina detach. It can detach for various reasons. It can detach for physical reasons. Something's wrong with your body. But it can also detach due to collision, right? I know I've heard stories of where hockey players take a big check and then all of a sudden, whoop, they can't see a little bit. That's a retina detaching, all right? And it can be serious because if it detaches completely, they can't get it back on the backside. You'd go blind. You would lose the ability to see in that. Okay. All right, let's keep rolling. The optic nerve. The optic nerve connects the eye to the brain. Yep.
I get to the slide.
You can't see this slide? Where? What are you talking about?
Turns out with nerves.
On what?
On
There's nothing? Oh, well. Can't help you. Write down optic nerve on that blank thing. Connects the eye to the brain. The brain takes the small inverted image and creates a large upright image. Now, I don't know if we'll be able to see it, but I'll see if I can give this a shot. Let me just show it. Let me get something here. So I'm going to take some tissue paper here, all right, and I'm going to tape the tissue paper to the back of this old demonstration eye. The biology department used to use this, but it lost all of its parts. Like you'll notice it doesn't have a lens, it doesn't have anything. It's got some muscles in here, that's great. But I can take this, and you can see that there's an opening there. In actual fact, that opening kind of represents this, where the optic nerve goes in. And I'm going to just pretend that that's where the retina is, but the retina is actually all along the back surface. So if I take some of this tissue paper and I tape it to the back side, all right, and I take some to the back side here, take a little bit of tape, and I'll put that right there. I'm going to put another piece of tape back here, piece of tape back there. And now I turn the lights off, turn all the lights off there if you could. And I turn a really, really bright light onto Josh. Close your eyes, Josh. Are you okay? Are you ready? Let your pupils do its work, all right? Now, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Don't hurt yourself. He's now going to be my object. Can you handle it? Come on, you can handle it. Jeez. And now I'm going to put a lens in front. And I don't know, wave for us. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm changing things. Thanks, you're doing a great job. Okay, you're going to now follow me over here because you complain. I'm joking. Oh, this is fun. So this is going to be my new source here. And you're just going to stand in front, and you don't have to face the light this time. Face us. That's better. No, move right in front of the light, or right in front of the window. And I want you to come close here. Come close. Actually, you guys take a look here at the back of my eye. Can you see the back of the eye? Okay. Now, wave for us. Can you see him? Come around back. Come on, you got to come around back to see him.
yes, I see him. He's upside down and very small.
Take a look.
That's actually really cool.
Keep waving.
Don't stop.
See him?
Don't stop.
Okay, get out of the way so people can see. Can you see him? Can you see him? You see him? Actually, I can't turn the head. I got to have him this way. All right. Notice, how did that, you can come on back. How did that image look? Small. And what else? Inverted. Did you see it, Max? Oh, forget about it. Those of you who didn't see, we could actually get the window. Can you see the window on the other side? Perfectly clear. Okay. So, you notice that the image was small and inverted. And it has to be real, because it has to go onto the retina. So the light comes in, it gets focused just like we saw yesterday. We get a small inverted image, but our brains are awesome in that it flips everything around so that we know where up and down is, even though on the back of my eyeball, it's all upside down. It's all flipped around. All the images that we see in the back of our eyeball, that's a huge eye. They're actually that big. Yet there's enough cells there for us to differentiate each little bit of one location of another. That's how sensitive the back of the eye is. Okay, but our brains are very powerful. They're able to flip that up. I've heard of a situation where people get hit in the head and the brain either loses that ability to flip the image up, and for a short period of time, the world looks upside down to them. And it messes them up for a short period of time. But then the brain relearns which way up and down is, and then they get their orientation correct, because it's really just a perception of what up and down is, right? We get a perception of how our inner ear tells us which way gravity is, and our images are up and down, and the brain kind of works itself and takes care of that. Okay, let's now talk about, oh, here we've got some various images that you don't have to worry about. These are just in my PowerPoint. To be honest, Mr. Petrus found some of these images. These are awesome. So here we've got the iris. There it is. It's a 3D one. There's the pupil, the opening. There's the cornea. There's the lens. And there we've got the back of the eye, which is the retina. Let's now talk about how our eyes function and some common eye defects. So, accommodation. Accommodation is the word we use to describe how we look at things close versus look at things far. So, if you were to right now hold your finger close to your face and almost cross your eyes and have a look at your finger, without changing where you're looking, you should be able to notice that everything in behind looks blurry. Without changing it, don't bring it too close, man, you're going to hurt yourself. So put it a little further away. You can put it about a foot away. Just notice how everything in behind looks blurry. Now look up at something that's far away, and then look back to your finger, and then look up at something that's far away. I'm hoping you notice that there's a small point in time. It takes a little bit of time for your eyes to adjust to the far away thing. Have you noticed that? Did you get a chance to see that? It's close, and then I look up. It's blurry for a brief moment, and then things come into focus. Have you noticed that? You can't see that. They both stay clear. You're some kind of a superhuman that has the ability to see close and far at the same time. Wow, that's exciting. Anyway, for the rest of us regular people, listen, for the rest of us regular people, that time it takes for it to get clear is the lens changing shape. The ciliary muscles are doing their thing, and they're changing shape in order to see close or far. All right. Looking at near objects. So here's an object that is close. Its light is bending away. It's separating away from the object. We need really strong lenses to refocus them back on our eye. So the ciliary muscles pull like a drawstring. Ciliary muscles pull like a drawstring. This makes the lens fat and strong. All right? So those ciliary muscles pull like a drawstring, and they make the lens fat and strong. Whether when you get old the muscles get weak or the lens can't flex, if you put your finger out in front again and you slowly bring it close, at some point you won't be able to focus it anymore. It'll become blurry. That point at where your finger starts to become blurry, and for me it's right there. Oh my goodness, when I started teaching I could get up to there. I am an old person. So I get to here, and my finger already looks blurry, which is why I need glasses. I've got a near point of about a foot. For healthy young students, you should have a near point of about like 20 centimeters. You should be able to focus your focus like about 20 centimeters from your nose. There is at some point you lose that ability to focus on it because your ciliary muscles can't make the lens fat enough. All right? That's called the near point. And at some point, your near point gets way out there. It's depressing. All right. Looking at far objects. Let's keep filling in the blanks, folks. Looking at far objects. The ciliary muscles relax. They relax. They relax, and this makes the lens skinny or thin and weak. Thin and weak. thin, and weak. All right? So you can see light that comes from afar is already parallel because it's so far away, which means we don't have to make it bend as much. And you can see there a thinner, weaker lens will be enough in order to get that light to land on the retina. All right. I don't know how are we keeping up with filling in the blanks? Are we okay? Okay. Now let's talk about nearsightedness. The ability to see near, but not to see far. You are probably nearsighted, right? You're nearsighted. So you take your glasses off, blurry, right? You can look at something close without your glasses, but you need the glasses to see far. So what's wrong with nearsightedness? With nearsightedness, the far is the one that's an issue. The lens is too strong and it bends the light too early. It focuses at the front side or in the middle of the eyeball. So we need to spread the light out in order for the focus to end at the back. So we must use a diverging lens, a lens that spreads light out in order to get the light to land on the back end of the eye. This means, nearsightedness means that you can see near, but you cannot see far. For this problem, the lens is too strong and can blank the light blank blank. If it's too strong, what does it do to the light? Oh, I thought that was an answer. That's exciting. It was the classic head scratch. What does it do to the light too well? Focuses would be okay. I'm going to put bend. Bends the light too much. You can see here in my top picture, that light is bent way too much. To fix this, we need a blank lens. Diverging. Diverging lens. To spread the rays out so a clear blank is on the blank. A clear image is on the retina. Image is on the retina. All right, excellent. Diverging lenses. Could I start a fire with a diverging lens? No, because it doesn't focus the light. So you poor souls who are all nearsighted, you can't start fires with your glasses. Sorry, no good. All right, let's talk about the next one. Farsightedness. This means you can see blank, but you cannot see blank. What am I putting here? This means you can see far, but you cannot see close or near. Farsightedness. It means that the lens is too weak. The image is actually behind the retina. It doesn't actually, the retina catches it there. You'll notice it's too spread out. You can't see a clear image. You need to see it where it meets perfectly. For this problem, the lens is too weak and cannot blank the light blank. What do you think? Bend the light enough. It cannot bend the light enough. So if I've got something that cannot bend the light enough, I need a type of lens that bends the light more in. What type of lens bends that light in? Converging. We need a converging lens to bring the rays together so a clear image is on the retina. All right. Can you start a fire with a converging lens? Yes, you can. So mine are pretty weak. I don't think I could actually start a fire because it doesn't collect enough light. But converging lenses, you can do that. What's that? Oh, no, I want to talk about, is there anything else I need to talk about here? Laser eye surgery. I just want to talk a little bit about laser eye surgery. That's a nice, disgusting picture. No, you don't have to write it down. Laser eye surgery. What does laser eye surgery do? Do you know the answer? What does it do? No, it actually doesn't repair it. It doesn't repair it. It changes the cornea. The cornea, remember, can't change. So what they do is the laser burns a little bit of the cornea away and changes it so that it works better with your eye. All right? I don't know if you guys, no, I'll just keep going. Let's just finish off this camera or this light thing here, and then I'll get to the camera. So again, just at the end, I've got some pictures here. That's the picture of someone's retina. You can see all the blood vessels. So if you could, get that pupil to stay nice and big and you had a magnifying glass, you could look into somebody's eye and you would see that. And that's what the doctors are doing. That's just a picture of a big eyeball. This is a ring going in preparation for laser eye surgery. That's just disgusting. That's why I have that there. That's just a disgusting thing. And Mr. Petrus found some of these. That's just a nice looking eye. That's just a good looking eye there. Take a look at this. That's exactly what it is. That is an awesome picture, courtesy of Mr. Petrus. That had something was growing in somebody's tear duct. That is awesome. Isn't that just awesomely disgusting? Yep. Is there? Maybe that's what this is. Yep. That is exciting. So here is the larva that was removed from this guy's eye. That is good stuff. Okay, let's talk about the camera. That was fun, eh? So the camera doesn't. What are you looking for? What's that? Quickly. So you have to switch out into a new document. I have a separate document for the camera. All right. I have a separate document for the camera. And in the camera, I don't have any more than just this picture. So we're going to just talk about what the blanks are on that camera document, and we'll fill them in. Again, is this the same picture as the camera? Is this the same picture? So we will label the parts. And again, those of you who are trying to just type it in, you'll have to take a picture of it again, right? Okay? So I'm going to get the black pen for this one. So you can see here, and I've already removed it from this one. And I'll put it back on. The first thing that the light encounters here is well, what do you think that first one on the left is? Yep, it's the lens. And I'm going to write it in yellow over here. Lens. That's the lens. Now the lens, well, what does the lens behave similar to in the eye? What does the lens behave similar to? Yep. The cornea and the lens. Now in a camera, the way it adjusts its focus is moving the lens in and out, kind of like what I did with that fake eye. So as I turn this thing, I don't know if you can see it moving in and out. Can you see it moving in and out a little bit? As I turn that, it moves in and out a little bit, and that's how we get it to focus. So the light enters and hits the lens. The next piece is this little piece right here, and this little piece is that thing that I showed you that opens and closes. And this little thing is called the diaphragm. This is the diaphragm. I got to put the G in. I got to say the G or I spell it wrong. Diaphragm, and it's got a G in it. And as I stated, and I'll take it off again, I can adjust the diaphragm in this lens assembly by turning this outer ring. I'm turning the outer ring that's closest to you. All right? What does the diaphragm behave as in our eye? What's the diaphragm the same as? It opens and closes. What's it the same as? It's not the pupil, because the pupil's the hole. It's the other part. Yep. Nope. What is that part that opens and closes and controls the hole? It's the iris. It's the same as the iris. Now, I don't normally label it, but I'm going to add it on here. The hole itself does have a name. All right? The hole itself is called the aperture. The aperture. The aperture is something that you can control as a photographer to determine how much light enters the camera. So let's say you've got a really bright day, you want to make that aperture small so that you don't have the camera flooded with light and you just have a big wash of light. So the aperture is like the pupil, okay? You can see here, here's the light ray, and it comes here and it strikes this mirror, all right? And I'm not going to worry about labeling the mirror. And then the light goes up into this prism, and this is a 5-sided prism. And it's a special prism that uses total internal reflection to let the light bounce around and come out of this hole at the top of the camera. And there's the hole there, all right? And this big chunky part on the top is where the 5-sided prism sits. And both of these, this one I lost the lens 4 years ago, or not 4 years ago, but many years ago. There's the 5-sided prism. And that 5-sided prism then lets the light come out of this hole at the back. And that hole at the back is called the viewfinder. This is called the viewfinder. The viewfinder, all right? Now, here at the very back is where the film goes, film. Or if it's a digital camera, that's where the digital sensing device goes. It's sometimes called a charged coupled display, a CCD. That's old technology. I'm sure they've got new technology. This little opening, or this, it's not an opening, this little window right at the back, this is called the shutter. All right? And that's the thing that everybody associates with these cameras, because when you hear it go, like when it takes a picture, it goes, you're hearing two things. You're hearing the mirror flip up, and you're hearing the shutter open and close. All right? Now let me show you the way this works. All right. So let's take a look at the front end of this camera. Now, I have it set that if I hold the button in, it stays open. Take a look. Can you see what's happening in there? You should be able to see the white piece of paper at the back. Do you see the white piece of paper at the back when I hold that open? Can you see it? All right. So what happens during a camera like this? Well, during a camera like this, when you look at an object to take its picture, the light comes in, hits the mirror, goes through the prism, and comes out here. So when I look at that person focused beautifully, nice job, I'm looking at the light that's entering the camera. I'm seeing a perfect representation of what I'm going to take a picture of, okay? And that's very important, so I'm looking very closely at it. As soon as I push the button, I can't see anything through this hole. Because what happens as the button is pushed? What happens to the light as the button is pushed? What's that? It's not cut off. Well, cut off from getting up to this hole. So, light comes in, hits the mirror, comes through here. I can see what I'm going to take a picture of. I push the button, the mirror flips up, it goes right to the back where the shutter opens, and where does the light end up? On the film. I take the, boop, it goes right onto the film. Okay? If I'm taking a picture of something that moves really fast, I will adjust the shutter speed so that it opens and closes super fast. In other words, it would be like me doing this with my eyes. Taking a quick look and then closing my eyes. You see what I mean? Very quick look. If I'm taking a picture of something that's really low light level, like I want to take a picture of the stars, and there's just tiny little stars, then I might put this on a tripod and leave that open for a long time and let lots of light come in. Okay? All right? Let me show you one other thing. I know there's some blanks to fill out on that. I'm hoping we can get done. But let's actually take a look at the image that's produced. By me putting a white piece of paper at the back, I've really done the same thing as I did with the eye, which means if we could get the lights off, Josh, would you prefer the bright light treatment or back on the other side of the room? Actually, you know what? You can stay here to look. Cade, your other side of the room now. You're doing a great job for me, though. All right, I'm going to do this far enough away here in order to let Josh see what this looks like. If I hold this open, and could you please wave for us, 2 hands, and I adjust the focus. There we can see a nice little, see him? See him? Very nice. Can you see him way back there? Can you see him? We're looking at this little thing right here. I'm going to come back in a moment. Now watch when I change the diaphragm. Zoop. See how he got all dark? So I close the diaphragm. Now I'm opening the diaphragm. There's the diaphragm wide open. So I'll show you guys back here. All right? So, okay, keep waving. Do your thing. All right? See that nice little image? If I adjust the diaphragm, you can see he gets really dim. So that would be like the pupil getting small or the pupil nice and big. All right? I'll come over here. Oh, we got a post in the way. Can you see him? And again, if I change that, you can see it get small. Get right. Lucas, you see that? It's exciting. He's awake. Yeah, Lucas has been snoozing. He props that desk up so I can't see his face. That's exciting. All right. So here, take a look here. Okay, keep waving. You're doing a good job. I'll get him all in focus. Now he's so small because we're far away. And if I adjust that, you can see there. All right. Okay, thank you very much. Let's now fill in those blanks. And I don't have it, so you're going to have to read it to me. What does the first blank say? Lens. What does the lens do? What does the lens do? Bends light. Let's use a different term. Oh, let's use focus. The lens focuses the light onto the, where do we want it to focus in the end? Yep. Not in a camera. The film. The lens focuses the light onto the film. What's the second blank? The shutter opens and closes. The shutter opens and closes to let the light hit the film. Opens and closes to let the light hit the film. What's next? The diaphragm. I'm just waiting for some people to catch up. What does the diaphragm do? The diaphragm controls what? How much light enters the camera. The diaphragm controls how much light enters the camera. What's next? What does the film do? Records the image, captures the image. The film records the image. And I should update mine. I don't, well, some people still use film. You know, some old school type, you know, they want it to be old school. And what do we have next? The viewfinder. The viewfinder simply, well, I'll just do it. The viewfinder lets you see the image. Let's just put it there. Lets you see the image. It's good enough. And anything else? Yeah, and so what is the question? Okay, let's do a couple of pairs. What two things do the same thing in a camera and the eye? Yep. Sorry? The diaphragm and iris. Just write down diaphragm and iris. What do they both do? You don't have to write this in, but what do they both do? Yep. Control how much light. What other pairs of things do the same thing? Another pair. What's that? The retina and the film. The retina and the film do the same thing. What do? They capture the image. They capture the image. Is there anything else? I suppose there is, because I added a label. Oh, the lens and the lens. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. The lens and the lens. But then also in the eye, what else focuses the light? The front side, what was that called? Cornea. The cornea and lens combination. I would say that there's one more pair right here, the aperture. What's that the same as? The pupil. The aperture and the pupil are those holes where the light comes in. All right. Do we have any other questions at the bottom of that? Right. And we can easily do that quickly in our couple of minutes. what's true about the actual image that is caught by the eye and by the camera? How would you describe those images? Smaller and inverted? And what type must they be? And why must they be real? Because it's projected onto an actual screen. Correct. So they've got to be smaller, inverted, and real. Okay. That is perfect. That is our discussion, and that's all I wanted there. I do want to, I want to stop my video recording. And I'm